Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome back to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
And I'm Pepper.
And today we're going to be giving our first impressions or first thoughts on the game Rurik, Dawn of Kiev. Or Kiev. Just makes me think of one of those chicken Kievs.
The chicken Kiev.
Stuffed with broccoli and cheese or whatever it has in there. It always take they're usually not cooked ahead or whatever, cooked ahead of time, so you have to put them in the oven for quite some time for a very tiny thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they're very tasty.
They are.
But that's what that always makes me think of when I hear that in this game title.
Mm-hmm.
If it had just been called Rurik, I would never have thought that.
Yeah. Now you get to get hungry for chicken Kiev every time you play.
Yes. But yeah, this one is one that if you checked out our... Which one was it? Was it the first? It must have been prior to 2020.
Yep, prior to 2020.
So our wish list games, top 10. This was on my list.
I believe it was number one.
It was my number one. So this is one, along with another one we recently got to the table, Crusaders. Those were both kind of pretty high up there for me and had been on my kind of want to look into list for a year or two, quite some time actually, compared to some of the other ones, which are maybe some newer games or games I've just learned of. These ones I've heard of several times, and this one being one of them. Yeah, it's just one I was super excited to be able to try out.
So is this one of those names that kind of got you into a game, or not really with this one? Don't you really like actual places in titles?
This one probably wasn't quite as much. It's a little bit, but the name wasn't something. I don't think I heard the name. I think it was maybe the combination of the name and the box helped a little bit, but the box cover. But I think the name alone for this one didn't necessarily. Wasn't one of those that got me interested. But yeah,
for me, sometimes I go through the BGG, maybe top 500 to 1,000 games, and just kind of look what's new or games that maybe I've missed out on. And I kept seeing this Rurik Dawn of Kiev. I'm like, what is that game?
Mm-hmm.
I think I had heard of it a few other places and not really known anything about it, or known if I should look into it. And then you brought it up for the wish list, and it was kind of getting around Christmas, so I was looking at that and seeing if maybe that'd be one we could get. And I actually found that the action selection mechanism in this one looked very interesting. So I think that's kind of was the deciding factor, you putting that on that wish list, which really got the game to our collection.
Yeah, and from what I had known about it, this one I think was one too, and maybe the reason I don't know that it's seen all that often, talked about all that often, is I think it's one that maybe hasn't gotten out to as many people, even though it's been out for a few years. I don't know if they've had limited print runs or things like that. Because I think it was pretty hard to get, and they had a Kickstarter with an expansion. I think that's kind of when more people got into the game, and then now I don't know if it's still kind of hard to get. I'm not 100% sure on that. Because I think the expansion must have been like a year ago now as well. So, but yeah, the thinkiness of it, and then also kind of seeing the board and stuff looked really nice. And then just the fact that there was an area control type thing to it, and it being a Euro game, or coming across as a Euro game. Yeah. I've looked for more Euro games that have like that area control, because it doesn't seem like that many do. There's some, but it's not quite as common of a thing. That's usually we've gotten into more other games like cooperative games and dice chucking games that are more area control, which I think is typically where you'll see that a little bit more. But
I feel like we've seen quite a few and heard of a few more kind of hybrid games that blend some of those aspects that we usually don't see blended, at least in our experience. But yeah, Dwellings kind of stands out as that for me, where that's kind of got a lot of worker placement and Euro-y stuff, but also quite a bit of dice chucking as well.
Yeah. But yeah, then we got this one to the table. We played it one time. Well, I don't know. Did you end up playing it solo, was it?
I did not get it played solo. I was reading the rules, and it's kind of tough. I usually would rather play the game and learn it, and then learn the solo variant, and not learn how to play the game, and then learn what changes to make for a solo, having just learned the game. So I was pretty drained after going through that rule book, and it was pretty late at night, so I decided to just wait and play the regular game with you the next day.
Yeah, because this was one, once we got it unboxed, I had been kind of waiting to sink my teeth into. Cause, being one of those games that I've kind of been hoping to play for quite some time.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we got into the play. And I don't think at the the beginning, you'd gone over it, and you'd even said that it wasn't a lot of points, but I don't think I even understood then exactly fully what you meant by that. But this game does not have a lot of scoring in it.
And you've said in the past that you like games with large amount of points in the hundreds.
Right.
And this is not that. I think it ended up being around 20 points was about our the winning score.
Yeah, what was it, 21 to like 13 or something? 20,
I think, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, I typically like the ones that give you multiple or quite a few options in scoring, or I guess multiple ways of scoring, and ways to like continue to score and find like ways to get, maybe this isn't the best action, but it'll give me 2 more points or 3 more points there.
Just
something
kind of
like
always having that option to get points on your turn or whatever.
And this just definitely does not have that.
This is got like 4, I think it's 4, or is it 5 main scoring objectives.
Yeah, I think it's 4.
Kind of a lot of controlling things on the map, having buildings on the map, resources, type of thing like that, where you kind of what is it? The higher you get it, then you'll reset it at the end of the round to match if you got maybe 5 spaces adjacent to each other that you control. And then even if you lose those later, you will still get the points for having the 5.
Which is an interesting way of scoring things. Like you maybe try to max one out and then or try something else.
Which I don't think we really did that.
No.
I feel like we just kind of kept expanding and trying to keep control of things.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting to actually try to push up one of them early and then abandon that and just focus on something else. I could see the game changing a lot, how we play it.
Yeah, and I think, and if you could tell, I was a little disappointed by my first play, I think. But I think it's one that I'm going to have to play more. Now that I kind of know what the scoring expectations are and kind of have a feel for it, because one of the things, and it ended up being the card that I took, had to be the highest on the, I think it wasn't the buildings. I had the option of the buildings, most buildings on adjacent spaces, or the resources on the boat. I chose the resources on the boat, and I did not set myself up well to fill in the boat with as many resources as
we
possible.
tied on every track, which a tie would go, you would achieve your objective. We tied on every track except for that one, which I beat him.
Exactly. So that did not play out well for me, and he did not know that I had that one. But so it wasn't like he intentionally did that. But as I see him with those resources on there, I'm like, well, okay, I might still have a chance, because I dedicated my whole last round to getting 2 more to tie where you currently were, and then you ended up going up another level as well. Which I was hoping you weren't going to do, but you did. But yeah, so they're very minimal scoring. I still think it would be interesting to see how that will play now that I kind of know, like, this is going to be...
Yep.
You kind of know how hard it is going to be to do the things, too. Like, because I had the option of either of those cards, and I just thought that building adjacent spots was going to be harder than it ended up being. I think that ended up being easier for me than getting the resources. Based on where I was on the board. So I think just knowing what I know after one play, it should be a better experience the second game. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind, I think, with this one, is the scoring is very minimal. And just to really be alert as to how you score, or how the scoring's done. Or did you get that? I guess, did you get that feeling? Maybe it was more... Maybe you
I
realized it a little more.
think I would agree on that, yeah.
But yeah, and then the other way of scoring was getting these cards and then completing these like secondary small goals for like another point or 2 points here or there.
But yeah, you can only really get those at the end of the round at a claim phase, which there are 4 rounds in the game, and
so it's a fast game.
And you wouldn't do it at the end of the fourth and final round. So
there's
really,
only 3 that
you can only get 3 of them. And there are some other cards that you can get that would allow you to claim some, because there's like 3 face-up objectives, and you can't complete them from that row. You have to actually claim them and then complete them, which I know you were not a fan of for that.
No. I really wish, and maybe it'll make more, maybe after playing it more, maybe it'll make sense why that's the thing. But I just felt like, I really wish that if you could do one of the 3 that's showing right now, you could just claim it for like a point or 2 points.
Yeah.
Just because, to me, like you said, we tied on every single thing except one.
Yeah.
So that would have been a difference maker in itself. But had we tied on all of them, there were some that were 2 points and some that were 1 point. And when you're picking them, there could be that potential that your opponent gets a 2-point one, and you don't even have an option of a 2-point one.
Yeah.
So even if you can all say he got 1 2-point and then 2 1-points, and you got 3 1-point ones, and you all completed all of those, and you all tied on everything else, just because that person got a 2-point one, they would be the winner.
Yeah.
That's why I don't know. I was getting the feeling that you should be able to.
Yeah, I feel like there
those.
should be a way, and maybe we could have gotten a rule wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
And there is the expansion that we have, and I think there's even some things you can add in for the base game, which we'll have to see exactly what all of those add, and maybe if it helps ease that a little bit. But yeah, I feel like there should have been a way, like maybe you can forfeit one of your actions to draw one at least. Maybe.
Right.
Something, some way to get more of those.
Yeah, or even if you're using, like you said, forfeit one wherever your thing is and take one of those instead. That would be, I would agree that would be a fair trade-off, I would think.
Yeah. But yeah, moving on to that action board. Really a neat mechanism where everyone has kind of numbered workers, which is kind of their strength, and you have like 5 columns of different actions so like one will be a build action, and the higher on the column, the stronger the build action is, and lower. So then when you place your worker, the higher numbers go up to the top of the column and bump the lower numbers down, but the lower numbers will activate first of those, which I guess, what did you think of that?
I really liked that, and I think the first round that was another thing. I think this is a game of not knowing what you don't know until you're in the game and playing it. Because like you're thinking, that's fine, I don't mind. At first I was thinking of it as like, I don't mind if I have a weaker action of attacking or muster. If I only get 1, I don't care, versus having 3 musters or whatever it may, whichever action you're taking, having a lesser one. That's how I was seeing it in my mind at first. Like, I don't care, so I'll put the 1 on that one because I really want to do multiple builds this round, so I'm going to save my 5 for that spot. But maybe you wanted to build before you move. Like, say you were between build and move, you put the 2 on the move and the 5 guy on the build. You're going to be moving before you build, so it's a really interesting kind of push and pull between getting the lower numbers or being able to bid for those spots, but then also getting them to actually activate in a specific order you want.
Yes.
It's very neat how those two things, you almost wouldn't think that they would work together, but it did work, I think.
Yeah.
And I also think after we were done with the game, one thing you can do is adjust your workers by a value with coins.
Yeah, bribery.
Bribery.
They call it.
You didn't tell me that. No wonder. Then I would have played it differently. But no, I ended up having quite a few coins left at the end of the game, and I was kind of thinking. Now that I thought about it, I was like, maybe I could have bid like higher with some of those low ones, or added coins to some of those low ones to get higher bids. To maybe get better actions, but also take them earlier.
Yes. Yeah, I tried to do that a few times because I wanted like certain actions to be my first action and be powerful. But then I just held out like the whole round because I'm like, I don't want to bid more coins than I need, or to bid this one up to a 5 and then have you just put a 5 with 1 on there or something. So I just kind of waited out, and then I never really had it work out to where you put a high number there or something and told me exactly what I needed to place. So I wanted to kind of make that kind of move, but it never really worked out for some reason.
Yeah, it's definitely. I was wondering if it would work out, but then that's what I was also worried about. Is then you almost have to wait with that worker to see, because you could bid, a 2 with 3 coins to make it a 5 value, basically. But then the other person
Maybe they didn't even want the action.
Yeah, they might not have wanted the action,
5
or
coins.
they could play their 5 with 1 coin, and you wasted way more coins than they did. So yeah, it's really interesting. If they already have theirs placed there, like a high number, like if they already happen to have their 5 placed in a certain action, then I think you could be a little more confident that if you make your 3, if you add 3 coins to a 3 and you make it a 6. Not saying for sure that they wouldn't then add coins to another one of their numbers and push you, but I think you could be a little more confident that they wouldn't do that. So it would be interesting to see, because I was also thinking coins were going to be really valuable, so I'm going to hold on to these as long as I can, and then I just never ended up spending them, and then they're not worth points at the end. So it's kind of just a waste to have that many left over at the end.
But yeah, overall, I really love that mechanism.
Yeah, I loved how that came together, and I really loved once we got things out on the board and how it spread out. I really liked how clean the board was and how easy it was to tell which areas you were in and all of that stuff. A little bit of a negative, the plastic. I don't know if these are. I don't know if they're special or not to this edition.
I forget.
But we have these plastic people for each of our the colors, and we had 3 of them that had broken off the stands.
Yes.
And just the way they looked like they were connected on there, it looked like it was a very weak. So I won't be surprised if more of them end up breaking off, but that was one thing that was a little disappointing.
Yeah, for otherwise great production, I would say, for the game.
Yeah, for sure. And then the one other thing was the box for the white ones ended up kind of like, I thought, oh geez, this is really cool how they put those in there, but then this one ended up, I don't know why, just it like almost slides out. Usually the bottom pops in place, and then you can take it out and you can put all your wooden pieces. Really neat.
Kind of into a nice little tray. And then you kind of have another little bowl that you put on top of that.
I think that's really, really unique and cool how they did that, and that's a really easy way to have set up ready. It's a little bit nicer than a bag. A bag could have worked and done pretty much the same thing, but it's just a neat, different way of doing that. But those are just kind of small nitpicks. That's not really involved in the game at all. But I think is that everything. Were there any other?
Pretty much everything, I think. But yeah.
So what'd you end up giving it? First impression.
If I had to give it a number, probably give it maybe 7.5 or so. I think it's a little much or a little heavy. Just kind of everything you have to consider with how you're placing your workers and the moves, because some moves can become useless if you don't have like rule in an area. And I feel like you can do all the planning in the world, and there's so many different ways for your opponent to mess that up by either mustering.
We only play 2-player.
Yes, by either mustering or moving, or even building a building of the type that you want to build, or something like that. I feel like there's just, for an action selection mechanism where it's so thinky and kind of analyzing and analysis paralysis. Quite a bit of that, I think, went on with us, at least me. But yeah, I feel like it's maybe too much chaos, even possible, to mess up other people's turns.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I think I'm sitting at about a 7 with this one currently, but I could see it. I could see it growing.
Yeah.
I think I could possibly see it going down 2 as well. I'm not 100% sure. It just depends how different it feels now that I kind of know that.
Yep.
But yeah, that's why I could definitely see it still going up, because I still like a lot of what's going on there. And yeah, I believe it is a little bit crunchy, a little bit thinky. I think it's going to be. Most of it made sense to me, but I think it could be a hard one to teach. I think you're either gonna understand it, or it's gonna really be like a wonky feeling, as like what I was originally thinking in the first round when I was placing them type thing, where you're like, oh, I don't really care about that action as much, but then you realize, later on, you're like, oh shoot, I can't be taking that before that, and then you, like you said, then you end up wasting actions type thing possibly. So you have to be thinking about, okay, what order do I want to do things? I think that's what you had to think about first, and then so we'll see. Hopefully it'll grow.
I definitely think it's one that you need to play more than once for sure to get a full opinion on the game.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, after first impression, still has some very solid things to it. It looks amazing, great production, great artwork of the board. I looking forward to trying it some more, giving it another shot. It's definitely not one that, like, after one play I was like, oh, I really, don't want to play this anymore. It was one that I was actually thinking for quite a while afterwards, like, if I did this or did that, and I don't always do that with games, so it is one that I'm still definitely interested in playing some more to see what my thoughts are on it. Yeah, that is Rurik, Dawn of Kiev. If you liked what you saw, you can definitely, we'd appreciate it if you give us the old thumbs up. If you want to see more first impressions on games, feel free to subscribe. Hit the bell icon, I believe it is. But otherwise, we hope to see you next time. Otherwise, don't forget to keep on nibbling
on our content
and Kievs.